Trustee Withrow will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trustee Gonzalez Brito will now read our affirmation of the statement of cooperation. Roll call first. Sorry, we need roll call first.
Student trustee Parmigiani.
No,
Here.
don't.
Student trustee Byrne.
Here.
Trustee Withrow.
Here.
Trustee Gonzalez Ewan.
Yes.
Trustee Napoleon Bellarice.
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk.
Here.
Trustee Johannes.
Here.
Trustee Gonzalez Brito.
Here.
Trustee Quinlan.
Here,
You have a quorum.
read the affirmation, the statement of cooperation.
Thank you, President Quinlan. The Peralta Community College District Board Statement of Cooperation. The Peralta Community College District Board of Trustees is committed to our effectiveness as a board. Through an annual self-evaluation and the establishment of meaningful goals, we dedicate ourselves to functioning as a high-performing team on behalf of the people we represent and helping students reach their educational goals. We therefore commit to honoring and upholding these commitments in words and in action. The full statement of cooperation is attached to this agenda item, but in summary, we commit to 1, build trust and seek to understand each other. 2, be prepared and follow good governance and ethical protocols. And 3, model the behavior we want others to exhibit. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a report on closed session?
No report on closed session.
Thank you. Can we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If no, roll call, please.
Student trustee Parmigiani. Yes. Student trustee Byrne.
Yes.
Trustee Withrow.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Ewan.
Yes.
Trustee Napoleon Bellarice.
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes.
Trustee Johannes.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Brito.
Yes.
Trustee Quinlan.
Yes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Excuse me, these are the minutes from our January 14th meeting. Second, is there a second? Any discussion? Call the question?
Student trustee Parmigiani. Yes. Student trustee Byrne.
Yes.
Trustee Withrow.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Ewan.
Yes.
Trustee Napoleon Bellarice.
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes.
Trustee Johannes.
I will abstain as I wasn't here.
Thank you. Trustee Gonzalez Brito.
Yes.
Trustee Quinlan.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from January 24th, the board retreat?
So moved.
Second.
Our motion is second?
Nikki.
No, I said, and a second. Roll call, please.
Student trustee Parmigiani. Yes. Student trustee Byrne.
Yes.
Trustee Withrow.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Ewan.
Yes.
Trustee Napoleon Bellarice.
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes.
Trustee Johannes.
Abstain once again.
Trustee Gonzalez Brito.
Yes.
Trustee Quinlan.
Yes.
Motion passes.
We have a report from the Associated Students.
Just press it. Oh, hello, I'm Erison. I'm the president of ASCOA. And here are our activities from the month. We've established an events committee to help facilitate the creation of events at our school. We've received a presentation from our VP of Student Services on leadership. We've appointed a new officer onto our board But we've also had two officers resign from our board. We've established an elections committee to assist in electing our future officers next semester. And we also held an event for Lunar New Year where we had a volunteer teach students Chinese calligraphy. And that's all for my report. Thank you.
Sorry. Are there any other associated student bodies reporting? No others? Can we have a report from the Peralta Classified Senate?
Microphone here. Yes, thank you very much. Well, good evening, everyone. It's been a minute since I've been here. Just like to say greetings to the Board of Trustees, Chancellor Gilkerson, PCC coworkers, students, and our community members. Happy New Year. I actually missed out on our January meeting due to a technical Zoom. And I almost missed today due to a technical BART issue. So it is challenging sometimes to get here, but while it has been some time since I've actually addressed the Board of Trustees on behalf of the Classified Senate, rest assured that the Senate has been at work, albeit focusing mostly on internal matters and logistics, which were regularly or arguably of less interest to you, but important to us. Perhaps the most significant organizational matter was the adoption of a significant revision to our classified Senate Constitution and bylaws with an accompanying resolution that finally aligns our 5 campus senates elections on the same 2-year cycle. So I look forward to announcing the results of our next election, which will install our new leadership that is scheduled to occur at the end of the spring semester. As you are likely aware, led by Chancellor Gilkerson, a subcommittee of the Peralta Classified Senate has organized so far 2 out of 3 classified symposiums, the third of which is scheduled in the middle of the semester. Generally speaking, these symposiums have been well received as a good way for staff to come together to share perspectives and their mutual experiences. As the district now pivots to our renewed shared governance model, the Classified Senate continues to face a couple of challenges with respect to full participation. The first is simply for just getting our own senators engaged, to step up and to volunteer to participate on district and campus level committees. But to this end, our Vice President of the Senate, Tashetta Henry, will lead 2 shared governance classified presentations that are informational sessions this semester's whose interests or whose intent really is to provide information for all classified professionals to learn and understand the purpose and importance of classified input and shared governance to unlock their potential as leaders, build upon their own personal and professional development, and become influential PCC change agents. The first session will be held February 21st. and we have another one in May. Another challenge that staff is grappling with relates to the committee meeting times. Mornings, even on Fridays, are often the most challenging of times for staff to get away from our workplaces when serving students. But we will do our best to make these meetings in spite of the travel inconveniences for some. My last item for tonight is to simply alert you to the Senate's recently adopted annual goals. It may seem late in coming, but they promise to be significant in scope. And so I'd like to just share the goals that were recently adopted by the Senate. So not necessarily in this order, but number one is to draft the resolution to the Board of Trustees and Chancellor that defines and supports release time for classified staff to fully participate in shared governance activities. Number two would be AP reviews, drafts, and amendments to APs such as 7124. This is the AP that governs the evaluation of managers. And we're also interested in drafting new APs for classified hiring that will address various aspects that don't yet have an accompanying AP, perhaps for particular BPs. Number three is professional development. The Senate is looking forward to carrying on the work of the Peralta Classified Professional Development Oversight Committee and to hopefully establish ongoing professional development as we envision it. Number four is speaks to social engagement and to increase classified engagement overall across the district. And number five is to see if we can establish a district-wide process for resource prioritization with respect to hiring. So we have some work ahead of us, and we look forward to sharing the outcome of our work at the end of and throughout this semester. Thank you very much, and that concludes my remarks for the night.
Thank you. We have a report from the District Academic Senate.
Thanks, Matthew Goldstein, President of the District Academic Senate. Thanks for keeping DAS on the agenda. So I was up at Berkeley City College this afternoon, and I was speaking with the president of the Academic Senate up there, Matthew Freeman, and he reminded me about a question that Trustee Gonzalez-UN asked after the roadshow stop by the board at Laney last fall. And that question was, after hearing from staff and faculty about all the accomplishments that staff and faculty had made at Laney despite challenging circumstances, what can we as board members do to help you? What can we as board members do to help you? So tonight, I just want to encourage trustees to keep asking that question as the road shows continue. I know you're headed for Berkeley City in a couple of weeks, and I hope that when you get those wonderful presentations from hardworking staff and faculty, you ask what you can do to help them. We're inclined as employees to tell you good news, I would say, that we try to accentuate the positive, as the old song goes. And I would say that administrators in particular like to accentuate the positive when speaking to the board, but I think it's really important that we remember that there are genuine challenges at the colleges, and part of the conception of the roadshow visits, of course, was to remind trustees that things can be pretty tough at the college level. We're very proud of the work we do and the jobs we have, and that's understandable and correct. At the same time, we're experiencing real challenges. So again, I'd ask that trustees be clear-eyed and realistic about the challenges that people on the ground are experiencing. And remember that those are the folks who are serving the students and the communities most directly. I'll take up the matter of the proposed reductions during 5.2, the public hearing. But for the moment, I'd like to say that it's really important, again, to listen and respond to the concrete concerns that are coming from faculty and staff. I feel like in some ways we're in the tough position we're in large part because we failed to listen carefully to what's coming from staff and faculty. So thank you. I'll see you again in a few minutes.
Thank you. Public comments on matters that are not on the agenda.
We have Richard Tholey.
Good evening. My name is Richard Tholey. I'm the chapter president for SEIU 1021 at the Peralta Colleges. I want you to meet some of our members here. And they'll be sticking around till item 5.2 on the agenda so we could talk about the proposed layoffs to our members' positions. But I just want to speak right now to the level of, I would say, a lack of transparency, a level of detail that we haven't had in regards to the cuts. We've spoken to each of the college presidents, and some of the information there was limited. Meetings with the chancellors, we were given really no particulars. This was brought onto us last minute, last Friday, in the context of a different meeting. So our members are concerned, and hopefully they stick around and make some public comments. If not, I will make public comments more specifically to the item in 5.2. But just introduction to our members from SEIU. Thank you, see you in a bit.
Next, we have Lee Khan.
Hi, good afternoon, Board of Trustees, district leaders, and Peralta community members. My name is Lee Khan. I'm the former editor-in-chief of the Peralta Citizen, which is the student-run news publication here and the #1 source for hard-hitting, impactful, and accurate reporting of Peralta issues. I'm just here to extend my gratitude to this district and share that I've been offered a full-time reporting position at the Island Packet on Hilton Head Island in South Carolina. I've transferred the leadership of the Citizen to two of the fiercest reporters I know, Lila Schmedel-Permana and Desmond Megley. It breaks my heart to leave. I love this community college district, and I believe that Laney's journalism program outperforms some journalism programs at four-year universities in terms of quality, impact, and opportunity. The district should be unequivocally proud of the Citizen and our accomplishments. We received 9 awards from the Journalism Association of Community Colleges last semester, and we've now had 3 reporters, including myself, receive fellowships with Cal Matters, which is a really great nonprofit news organization that produces in-depth reporting on California issues. Yeah, I pretty much owe everything in my life to Laney College. When I came here, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life and had no confidence in my skills. And this is just an example of the magic that Peralta can do, is take someone who's a little lost, be like, I don't know what to do, I'm going to go to community college, and really show them that they have the skills and really let them grow and find their own path. So just, love Peralta. Thanks.
Next, we have Jeff Sinceri.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. I know that today is a sad day in a lot of ways for all of us. We see what's being done, and we're all struck by the tragedy of it all. But I got to say that thinking about this, I also feel compelled to remind you that this was preventable. Faculty have been consistently communicating with you, the board, over the last 7 years. And what we've consistently said was that cutting classes will hurt us. Cutting classes and not investing in our students will start a downward spiral that can only result in dramatic and even unthinkable actions. And here we are. From 2017 to this year, we publicly noted with evidence that our hold harmless funding was growing every year, but funding for our classes was going down. To be sure, the only thing that grew during those years was the funding level of the district. It grew by 13% during those years. Meanwhile, our students lost somewhere between 800 and 1,000 sections, and we lost well over 200 faculty, even more in the last year or two. Faculty were consistent in our messaging. However, every time we would say that if we don't invest in our students and our classes, things will only get worse towards disaster and job loss. And we were mocked and ridiculed publicly, right here, in fact. And now we're losing more faculty this coming year again, but their names won't be on your agenda. Yet I know that the PFT office will get a flood of calls asking time? Okay, good. How to apply for unemployment. So yeah, y'all have a hard decision to make tonight. And there are more hard decisions on the horizon. I find it tragically ironic that much of the analysis from our current district administration coincides with what faculty have presented to the board over the last 6 or so years, with the exception of class cuts, which are damaging to our students, programs, and faculty. Indeed, there's much evidence to suggest that it would be fiscally responsible, if not wise, to avoid cutting any courses at all. But that's just one of today's fights, and it's part and parcel with the oft-discussed dramatic changes to the structure of our district. But as you preside over these changes, I hope that you take seriously what faculty and staff are saying, because I know we'll be saying much more soon. And I know that if you listened to us back then, you could have prevented this. Thanks.
Thank you.
Sean Slaughter.
Good evening, everyone. I'm a former student at Laney College and just wanted to share a few thoughts. We understand that there's a budget crisis and it may be for the next 4, 8, or however long it may be. We don't know. With that said, some time ago, I met a young man from Laney College, and this is what he told me. There's a young man from Laney, a former student. He confided to me that he lived off of 84th Avenue off of International Boulevard, and that his family situation was of such that if he were to graduate from school, he needed to check himself into a homeless shelter, thereby qualifying him to be able to enroll at American River College, where they provide housing. And why am I bringing up housing? This young man had checked himself into a homeless shelter, applied for American River College, where he was able to transfer from American River College and then transfer to UC Berkeley. Today, he works for Summit Hospital. The cuts that you wish to pursue is and will be an ongoing thing. It's nothing new. It keeps coming up. Excuse me. With that said, Peralta Colleges, Oakland Unified School District, both own lots and lots of property, land. It would be awesome if we were able to find residual income instead of constantly going after grants, although grants are very important. They're only one part of the puzzle. The city of Oakland has chosen to sell off property, and we know from that, once it's gone, and you're not going to get it back. We need residual income. One of the ways to do that would be able to partner with HUD and maybe some other folks who aren't trying to bleed us dry and building student housing, also in turn with teacher housing, to provide residual income, to provide consistent funding for staff and faculty. The students need it. It's great programs here, but if there aren't people here to help them navigate that, they're just going to leave because they're going to become frustrated. I was part of that group that made the AC Transit bus pass possible. Also part of that food program. It happened during my tenure here as vice president for ASLC Student Union. With that, let's see. Yeah, I'll leave it there. But it needs to be a residual income and not just these one-time stopgaps. Thank you.
That is all the public comment for now.
Thank you. We have the Chancellor's report.
Good evening, trustees. I'm going to begin the Chancellor's report with brief reports from the college presidents as we've started the spring term. So I'll begin with Dr. David Johnson, president of Merritt College.
Good evening, Chancellor, President Quinlan, trustees, colleagues, and community. Trustees, you have my report, which highlights our kickoff for Black History Month. It was very good, and applauds a service learning project that our students in our Psychology 10 course, which is Psychology of Life, Basic Principles, a service learning project that they did with the Women's Drop-In Center and Bridget House located in Berkeley. So I want to spend my time tonight to formally invite you all to an event that Merritt College is co-sponsoring. It's the Barbara Lee and Elihu Harris Lecture Series. The date is Friday, February 21st at 7 p.m. at the Henry J, which is just right around the corner. Aside from the namesakes, Honorable Barbara Lee and former Mayor Elihu Harris, we are going to have our current mayor and your former colleague, Mayor Kevin Jenkins, will be in attendance, as well as the Honorable Congresswoman Latifah Simon. And we're all going to be there to welcome the minority leader of the United States House of Representatives, the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries. This is going to be an opportunity for us to be in community and cogitate on the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead in these very interesting times. So hope to see you there.
Thank you, President Johnson. I'll now go to Dr. Denise Richardson, president of Berkeley City College.
Good evening, Chancellor Gilkerson, Board President Louis Quinlan, trustees, colleagues, students, and members of the community. I would first like to sincerely thank the board for your consideration of BCC Agenda Items 7.3, 7.4, 8.1, and 8.2. BCC has had a spirited and memorable celebrations for Black History Month, which featured a compelling and informative lecture by my colleague, Dr. David Johnson, and today for Lunar New Year, a performance by incredibly talented lion dancers and drummers. As noted in our board report, over 20 BCC faculty, students, and staff took part in a focus group that was sponsored by the Downtown Berkeley Association. What really stood out for me was the thoughtful engagement of our students and community members who clearly understood the pain points that exist in our city and provided very thoughtful and practical suggestions for doing a better job supporting our undocumented community members and our chronically unhoused members of our community, particularly those dealing with mental health challenges. I would also like to express gratitude to Downtown Berkeley Association President John Kainer for giving us the opportunity to weigh in on establishing the priorities for advancing the city of Berkeley. This concludes my report for Berkeley City College. Thank you.
Thank you, President Richardson. Now turn to Dr. Rudy Besikoff, President, Laney College.
Good evening, Chancellor Gilkerson, Board President Quinlan, members of the governing board, colleagues in education, and as always, our valued students and community members. Laney College continues to support our students in so many ways, and one shining example is our Basic Needs Fair, which is a monthly event held in the Laney College Quad. And for this semester, it will be held starting tomorrow, February 12th, and then also held later in the term on March 12th, April 9th, and May 14th from 12:30 to 1:30. At these events, students have access, and they also have access through our Eagles Nest Basic Needs Center, to vital resources and support services, including a community lunch, clothing pop-up, and information about on and off-campus resources aimed at addressing needs beyond the classroom. These events happen thanks to the leadership and dedication, and she's with us in the public this evening, of Katrina Santos, Basic Needs Coordinator, and the great team, of student employees, as well as many in our Student Services Division. In closing my report tonight, I would also like to say thank you to the many Laney College colleagues who made our beginning of term events on campus a success. And within your board report this evening, you have details about our Welcome Week activities, Black History Month events, and our amazing Lunar New Year celebration, and so much more that is within my report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, President Besikoff. And now we'll turn to President Dixon for College of Alameda.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Board President Quinlan, members of the board, Chancellor Gilkerson, and of course, our classified professionals and faculty and community in the space this evening. COA has kicked off this semester, I think, with a real big bang. We've had a couple of enrollment festivals take place on our college campus where we brought on 110 students from across the Alameda and Oakland area. We had an ESOL orientation where we brought in close to 100 students that participated in workshops, understanding resources available to them, such as our EOPS program, financial aid, and of course, our basic needs area. But what I'd like to highlight this evening is our Black History Month events that have been taking place. We had Black Excellence as a band come out and perform on our college campus that brought students, classified professionals, and faculty together in a space. And at this time, that was a really good moment for us to have together to bond. I think I would give a huge shout out to the committee members, which is Instructor Rochelle Olive, Carla Pugres, LaShawn Broomfield, Charles Washington, Shalaman Duke, Selwyn Montgomery, and many, many others that came out to support the event. Lastly, I would say our associated students put on our Lunar celebration today. As Urson, our student body president, had represented, did a calligraphy opportunity, and it was a really great opportunity to come together, learn about culture and tradition. And I think that's really the theme, is celebrating culture and tradition of our communities, especially right now. So thank you for the opportunity tonight. Thank you for the individuals at our college campus that put on these events. And that will conclude my report for the evening.
Thank you, President Dixon, and thank you to the colleges, the staff, faculty, our student leadership, and to you presidents for the leadership and the programming that's been going on as we started the spring semester. So trustees and district communities tonight, we have a few important issues on our agenda. They include a public hearing regarding potential reductions in force and a significant change to our reserve policy. As I've been preparing these items, I want to take a moment in my chancellor's report to talk about difficult decisions, the ones that weigh on us, test our values, and force us to define who we are. These moments come for all of us personally and professionally. They demand something deeper than simple choice. They require courage, resilience, and a radical commitment to growth. These values are inherent in learning, the foundation of what we've provided for the East Bay community for nearly 80 years. Over the past year, I've spent time listening to feedback and holding space for the pain and frustration, some decades long, related to our systems, processes, and leadership instability. I see and feel how this has impacted employee morale, innovation, and student success. However, I also witness brilliance and tenacity in this community every day. Look no further than the Peralta equity rubric being used locally and internationally, or the Restoring Our Communities program, which supports current and formerly incarcerated students. Consider the infrastructure and support from our undocumented community resource centers, aiding undocumented and mixed status students and families in uncertain times. Our faculty and staff lead statewide conversations on professional development, teaching excellence, and award-winning programs like Merritt's cybersecurity, College of Alameda's apparel design and merchandising, Laney College's women's basketball, Berkeley City College's media arts, and the Peralta Citizen. And just recently at our January Flex event, we saw career education programs driving innovation, providing students with real-world experiences and igniting solutions-based ideas beyond our imagination. All of this is happening right here. Tupac Shakur's poem, The Rose That Grew from Concrete, teaches us that even in the harshest conditions, beauty and strength emerge. The rose did not ask to be planted in cracked pavement. It did not receive the nourishment of rich soil or the comfort of a gentle spring. Yet it persisted, pushing through adversity, refusing to be defined by its circumstances. Peralta and our 4 colleges have faced and sustained inordinate amounts of concrete, systems and structures that were not built to nurture, and situations like budget deficits, declining enrollments, legislative mandates, and the list goes on, where the odds seem impossibly stacked against us. We find ourselves here once again, but like the rose, we have a choice. Do we wither or do we push forward? That said, I do not wish to romanticize struggle. We should not have to grow in concrete, in less than ideal conditions. We have the power, if we have the will, to change the conditions in which we all grow and thrive. With over $27 million in budget cuts since 2020, 2021, and an anticipated $11 million to $13 million next year, we must act now. This is not about casting blame on those who came before, but about contributing meaningfully to a collective outcome. Whether in our individual work or through broader reimagining, we must serve this community with integrity, commitment, and shared values. We must go beyond just surviving. We must transform our environment. Bell hooks in teaching to transgress reminds us that education is not about passive obedience. It is about breaking barriers, questioning power, and embracing learning as an act of freedom. Difficult decisions require stepping outside of what is comfortable, challenging what we have been taught to accept, and taking risks to create a more just and meaningful existence. We are working to build a district that serves our students' needs and understands how our services should align to their success. We have started addressing broken systems by improving things like the contracts process, launching a new vendor portal, streamlining payments, tackling long-standing facilities issues, and managing capital projects with greater oversight. We are redefining safety and revitalizing shared governance as a means for fostering collaboration. This shift requires us to move from individual efforts to collective understanding and action, instilling hope and confidence in our future. As painful as it is, potential reductions in force are part of a survival strategy, one that addresses short-term challenges while allowing us to reimagine the future of Peralta. This is not just about maintaining what exists, but about seeding opportunities for transformation. Some have asked why I have not simply laid out a plan to relocate the district office, sell land, close a college, or secure new funding sources. These questions require deep engagement. To properly engage on these questions demands that we stand firm in our shared governance principles, creating opportunities for creativity, collaboration, and meaningful contributions. The actions we must take now are hard but essential for us. We've started to ask these questions at the January 31st District Shared Governance Retreat, including what could our colleges look like if we were radically redesigned and not competing with each other? As a central focus for the inquiry and action planning of our committees this semester. Bell hooks challenges us to move beyond passive acceptance and into action. And am I choosing what is easy or what is right? Am I allowing fear to dictate my actions, or am I daring to transgress, to break through boundaries and create something new? I've come to learn that difficult decisions are not just obstacles. They are opportunities to define the world we want to build and the people we want to become. We all want Peralta Community College District to succeed. The question is, which direction will we take to achieve that goal? If we only work to preserve our current structure, we will continue to cut until we have nothing left. Instead, we must revitalize, attract new students, and forge new partnerships. More importantly, we must remain focused on equity and social justice, increasing support for student completion, and addressing persistent opportunity gaps for disproportionately impacted students. If we allow external forces to dictate our future, we risk losing the ability to infuse our values into a long-term plan. We risk erasing the history that has made Peralta a home for generations of students and employees. But I believe in our ability to take focused collective action, both at the colleges and district-wide, to listen to students, examine our data, and engage in thought-provoking and difficult conversations. Through this, we can honor our past, serve our present, and shape our future. There are many possibilities before us. I'm grateful for the Board of Trustees, our leadership team from administration, faculty, classified professionals, and students, for your patience and faith in me as your chancellor and in each other. May we be brave enough to grow, to lead with faith in one another, and to exhibit the vulnerability we so often cherish in learning. I am confident that together we will improve our district and better serve our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. Next agenda item is a review of Board Policy 5020 and Administrative Procedure 5020. Is there any discussion on this item? So this was for review only. If not, move on to the next item. Public hearing, sunshining, contract reopeners for negotiations from the Peralta Federation of Teachers. This being the time and date noticed, the Board of Trustees will now convene a public hearing to receive public comment regarding the sunshining of contract reopeners for negotiations from the Peralta Federation of Teachers. Have we received any requests to speak on this issue? And who wishes to comment regarding this topic?
We have no public comment on this item.
Okay, so if there are no comments, I will declare the public hearing closed. Thank you. Item 5.2, public hearing, public input regarding proposed elimination of administrative, faculty, and classified positions. This being the time and date notice, the Board of Trustees will now convene a public hearing to receive public comment regarding the proposed elimination of administrative, faculty, and classified positions. Should have done this the first time, sorry. Have we received any requests to speak, or is there anyone present who wishes to comment regarding this topic?
We do. We will begin with Roberto Gonzalez.
Back. I'm Roberto Gonzalez. I work for Berkeley City College in disability services. And so I'm here really to address you all on this matter strictly from a union perspective. And I'd like to begin with a quote that I think speaks volumes that we need to address. And the quote is actually from, I believe it was VP Quinlan, who was quoted in a recent SF Chronicle article that says that everything is on the table right now. My question is, are all options really on the table right now? Have we really vetted the pool of options available to us before we resort to layoffs? So for example, furloughs. Have we talked about furloughs? Are we truly being strategic and getting buy-in for layoffs? I would say for most, it doesn't feel that way. We're already talking about layoffs in spite of the union's repeated asking for specific layoff plans for months now. It was brought to the attention of SEIU only days ago that the list has already been compiled and that the district is presumably prepared to negotiate the impact on these layoffs. I, for one, am not convinced that the administration has a plan that is strategic and sustainable. I don't believe that our trustees have sufficient information tonight to support layoffs and to make that decision in 2 weeks. And yet again, we are under pressure to comply with Ed Code timetables rather than doing our best due diligence and to take proper care of our people. Yes, we are and have been in fiscal crisis, turmoil, however you want to term it, for years. So while it's almost, moot at this point to cry over spilled milk, people are in fact crying at this point. Even one layoff actually will hurt, let alone dozens. I'm here tonight to urge our trustees and Chancellor to commit to broadening the scope
10 seconds.
of discussion, recommendations, actions to utilize our re-envisioned shared governance model and its accompanying values, right? To reimagine Peralta, whether it's 4 colleges, 3 or 2, any of these are considerations that are no less intricate than the other 2 options. So in any case, the layoff of
Your time is up.
valuable,
I apologize.
thank you, valuable, hardworking, committed, talented, and frequently unpaid staff must be the last option on the table. SEIU will insist on talking about other options before layoffs. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else?
Next, we have Matthew Goldstein.
Thank you, Matthew Goldstein, District Academic Senate. And I do want to thank Chancellor Gilkerson for her remarks a moment ago. I wanted to note that in talking about reductions, we often resort to kind of a watered down business-like language. We use expressions like right sizing, finding efficiencies, eliminating redundancies. And I get that they're useful as euphemisms, but they also, of course, disguise the actual human cost involved in making, another cliche, tough decisions, right? So I think it's important to stress as we're talking about these tough decisions that we're talking about actual human beings whose livelihoods, whose families and communities will be affected by the decisions we make. In my view, we too often claim that we're making sacrifices on behalf of some abstract entity like generations of future students or the communities or even public education itself. But we sort of forget that there's a very tough distinction to be drawn between the communities we serve, future generations of students, public education, and Peralta employees. Those are many times the case. I'm sorry, they're frequently the same entity after all. So I would argue that drawing that distinction is sort of artificial, and I want to bear that in mind. Again, I recognize that folks in the district are trying hard to do the right thing, But I want to urge us that as we commit to being honest about our fiscal situation, we likewise commit to steering clear of the corporate language, whose use in some ways, I think, may have got us into this situation in the first place. So thanks for your time. And I know it's a difficult moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Alejandro Acosta.
Hello. Oh, hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm a little distracted and scattered for obvious reasons. I guess I don't really have anything prepared, but I'm just reflecting on like the invocation of bell hooks, right? And bell hooks was very prominently a socialist, right? Who, you know, among other things, advocated for a redistributive politics, you know, and you know, the way that the union at least has been included in these conversations, or very recently and last minute made aware of the proposed cuts to our unit, hasn't given us a chance to work collaboratively with the district on this, right? And what we do in the union, what all unions do, is we do like movement shit, you know? Like, and so I hear administrators a lot talking about the tough decisions they have to make, you know, essentially like managing austerity. But I do think there's other alternatives to that include popular forces like outside of boardrooms and executive cabinet meetings and that sort of thing. And that's what we want to bring to the table. You know, like that Chronicle article said that 9 out of the 10 other community colleges in the state facing a very similar situation are all here in the Bay Area, right? We know that there's all these crazy cuts going on at Cal State right now. OUSD is in big trouble. Like, we have a lot of people that are materially affected by this, not least of whom are our students. And I want to encourage like a open, transparent, and collaborative approach on this process as much as possible. So us in labor can do our job and try to get a political movement around this to maybe encourage the state to allocate some more resources to colleges in areas like the Bay Area, you know, that are dealing with these cost of living issues that make it really hard for students to attend college full time. And maybe start having the conversation out loud and in like a public arena that maybe
20 seconds.
A funding formula that funds all colleges across the state equally isn't really working for districts like Peralta. So yeah, sorry, that's just on the top of my mind. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next, we have Pamela Crumpton.
Good evening. President Quinlan.
Your microphone.
Good evening. Can you hear me now? Great. Okay. Good evening, President Quinlan, Vice President Gonzalez Brito, members of the Board of Trustees, Chancellor Gilkerson, presidents and guests. It is difficult to believe that you are considering laying off more classified professionals than any other Peralta Community College employees, primarily since many of our departments already operate with minimal staff. The proposed layoffs include 33 classified positions, which is highly concerning. Furthermore, many classified professionals have the lowest salaries in the district and rank among the lowest paid in all the Bay 10 schools. Please consider the impact these layoffs would have on their livelihoods. Many individuals are already just one step away from homelessness. with families that rely on them as their primary breadwinners. While making decisions for classified professionals, please remember that your choices affect our families. Currently, many receive supplemental incomes and visit the food banks because they do not make a living wage to support their families while living in the Bay Area. Classifieds did not make the decisions that led to the current budget crisis that is facing Peralta now. Please do not penalize us for decisions we did not make. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Azul.
I'm Asua Lewis. I work in the science department at BCC. I'm an SEIU steward and chapter treasurer. I have so many questions about item 5.2 that it's hard for me to give meaningful public comment. The union was notified of the proposed layoffs barely ahead of the public, less than 24 hours. What were the targets, the criteria, dollar savings per position and unit? Where are the incumbents versus vacancies? What else was considered? How will the cuts affect students? I don't know yet. So instead, I'd like to comment on what some of the experience of Peralta Classified can be like. In 2022, the district did a partial salary study, including 33 SEIU positions that represented around 60% of our members. Just under half of those had top steps at Peralta that were below the average bottom step of the Bay 10. I used to have one of those jobs. Last I checked, after many of the recent salary increases, though not all, my old title still had a top step at Peralta below the bottom step of the other Bay 10, the majority of the other Bay 10. Your work is excellent. You should really think about leaving Peralta. I heard that so many times, but I never agreed with it. It didn't make sense to me. I followed the same path as the students I work with. I know how much they need our excellence. I stayed. I work with you all. I have for years. This is my community. But I know how hard it can be to be the member of the community that's asked to contribute in this special way. Through uniquely low salaries, being asked to do a higher level job than your title, cover multiple jobs, being paid for one, and now for some, even being cut from this community. The classified employees being eliminated, they didn't create this fiscal crisis, but they'll lose their livelihoods to help pay for it.
Thank you.
Next, we have Richard Tholey.
I may not be as articulate as everybody else, but I'm going to be blunt. And these cuts are completely unacceptable. 24 filled positions, 33 positions in all. We're talking about community who started as students, who worked their way up through several years, potentially as hourly employees, who've dedicated years and years of service to the community, to students, several of which are probably started off as students in this community. Completely unacceptable. Without casting blame, I want to say there's other areas that Peralta can find savings. We got consultants running around the district who have been, we have a practice of hiring consultants year after year after year, sometimes for the same studies, and nothing gets done about it. So enrollment management, I work in admissions and records. We've had consultants come in, talk about, well, what are we going to do to help the students through the application process? We've had so many consultants come in over the years, nothing's been done about to improve the student experience. So we continue to talk about students, but it's our staff here that make counseling appointments, that see them at the first time they come in to get classes added in admissions and records. We could go through the whole list of classifications represented here. But quite frankly, these are the people that do the work. These are the folks that get the students into the classrooms. And so when you propose cuts to these positions, you're turning away students. We have managers in this district that don't have any employees under them. What are they managing? Why do we have directors without anyone under them? Several years ago, when we talked about hiring financial aid directors at each campus, I came to the board and I said, bad idea. Since then, we've had turnover after turnover after turnover at every campus for these director positions. So we really need to take a good look at what we're doing because there's poor planning happening here. There's a lack of planning. And I know certain managers, certain administrators don't like me saying that. But there is a lack of planning from management that goes on in this district. Oftentimes, and I'm just going to say it, oftentimes it's the managers that are the obstacles to getting things done. It's the lack of signatures, the lack of administrators or managers showing up. It's folks waiting for things to get processed, to go, to get approved. That is often the obstacle to getting things done. We should listen to classified. We should
20
listen
seconds.
to our valued employees who have been here decade after decade, after decade after decade, and we should really fulfill the promises of bringing in private public partnerships, about going out for donations through the community. We've been told that. What changes have taken place? These cuts are completely unacceptable.
Time is up.
And our members will not stand for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Tina Tabor.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Tina Tobar. I'm the A&R specialist at Laney College. To give you some background, I was a student worker, an hourly, then I became permanent. So I see my way through every stage. It's difficult to sit here and know that 33 positions are about to be cut or potentially about to be cut. And we are the front line. We see the students. When students have issues, they come to us, not managers. A lot of times when they don't even know where to go, A&R is the first place they come to. Sorry, I'm about to get emotional. And I know we don't want to place blame, but we also have to have a real conversation on how did we get here, or else we'll continue to have the cycle. And classify will continue to bear the brunt of this. We don't make the decisions. We try to voice our concerns, voice our opinions on what we see because we see the students, we see the frustration. But if management is not listening and they want to go their own route, where did that leave us? And now we are in a position where we are saying, well, sorry, but you got to go. Like I said, like my colleague said, we are human beings. California is expensive to live in. We love our job, but this is a job that we get a check for that support our family at home. So to say that, okay, 33 cuts and we have looked everywhere else, I would urge the board to really consider what other areas can we really cut back on that doesn't involve taking away somebody's livelihood. I understand there may not be a way around this, but 33 cuts, really? I think that number is pretty extreme, especially when 2 weeks ago, we was just talking about in the town hall meeting that we'll be doing everything that we can do before we even consider layoffs. But now 2 weeks later, I'm getting an email from my union that 33 positions is about to be cut. I was surprised. I was surprised and really upset, if I'm being honest. Because
20 seconds.
Classify, we do our best. We come to our job every day a lot of times without the support of management, without the best, coming to an environment that's not the best, but we do it because we come for the students. A lot of us have been there before.
Time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jamil Tier.
Good evening, colleagues and community. We are experiencing scary times. Out in the world right now, there's a lot happening at the federal level that is affecting everyone. And it's made folks feel like the world is unstable. We need to do our best to not let that feeling creep into Peralta. Transparency is free. SEIU members would like the opportunity to engage in discussions and dig into the data. We want to actually have conversations about upcoming changes to the future of Peralta. We want to make suggestions knowing that our voices will be heard and not that decisions have already been made and that we have to deal with those repercussions. Several of our departments have been on the receiving end of cuts since 2020 and 2021. Departments like mine, DGS, and facilities district-wide have long dealt with incompetence and swirl at the management level. We've dealt with irresponsible spending of funds when it comes to consultants and project creep. Every time we have a new manager, goals shift, and every new hiring decision brings new goals and new shifts. We have dealt with low staffing in the office and in the field, and we've just been finding stability. District-wide classified professionals have navigated these changes. We've taken on extra work without pay or an end in sight. We have endured the low pay. We have navigated poor management and the low morale that it causes. We have endured. We have shown up day after day, some of us for multiple decades, and we have continued to do so in service of our students. We are just looking for stability. Tonight, you will be hearing from examples of our exceptional students, faculty, and especially our classified professionals. I want you to keep our stories in mind when you listen, when you review, and ultimately when you make the tough decisions that come before you in the weeks ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Lily Lung.
Hi, my name is Lily Leung. I'm a library technician too at the Laney College Library. Good evening, Chancellor Gilkerson and Peralta Board of Trustees, and hope you all have a happy new year. I'm here tonight to say that no layoffs. I'm sure cuts can be, I know you guys have to make tough decisions to cut the budget, but please do not lay off any classified employees. I'm sure cuts can be made somewhere else, but not on the employees. And then also I want to say that President Donald Trump is planning to freeze funding, federal grant funding. I think we need to also take action on what Trump and Elon Musk is doing. And that's why it's impacting the government's budget. And then also, like people who buy lottery tickets, like if I buy a lottery ticket, I'm hoping that the money will go towards the schools in order to build up that enrollment for the schools. Because right now I'm hearing news about some of the school closures due to a budget deficit. And I'm sure there's money, from the state to be able to, allocate, to set aside to keep the classified employees. And it's not a way to start the new year, with the spring semester to, talk about, laying off employees. We're the backbones of, to make this college, function. Without the classified employees, the students won't be able to succeed because the students come to us and they ask questions, and we're the ones who work hard to make the college a functional sustainable college. And I want to give my time to the next person, whatever time left. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Marganta Pinilla.
Hello, my name is Margarita Pinilla. I start here as immigrant. I come here as an adult. I went to college, learn English, have the opportunity as a student worker, become hourly, and then full-time. I really grateful for the process, but it's kind of disappointing to hear the layoff in a college that has so many office that I love staff, that doing our job is so difficult. We have every day getting more assignments, more things to do, but not the time, not the energy. I have been trying my best to help the students, but I don't feel the support of the people around me, my supervisor, to give me the things I need to do, I have to do. I even changed college. I moved from one college to other college because it was exhausting to try to help. I will say in the new college, I'm grateful that I have more opportunities and more time to do the things I have to do, but I feel in pain with my coworkers that don't have the same opportunity to move to other college, and they still having short staff doing things that have to be done, and nobody cares. And then you are telling us now that on top of those difficulties or new assignments, that with the pandemic, we got all these online new things that we have to do that they had been removed. And then you're telling me that you are going to fire somebody that is going to put more load on my things, and you are not thinking how I going to do it. I don't know how we are going to survive and help the students. We're doing our best, but we need you to think in us, well, how much we are doing. Because it's a lot of people here that is doing a lot of things that are not in the job description. But we don't do it because we want to kiss the butt of our boss. We do it because the students need it. I work in admissions and records, and the student called me and say, oh, I had problem logging in Canvas. It's not my job to tell him how to log in Canvas, but I take the time to tell that student how to log in Canvas. Because it's a student that is struggling, calling other college in Maryland, and don't get an answer because we don't have enough staff. We don't have enough people to help that student, but the student still need help. The students told me I had been calling 20 times, 30 times, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, trying to get help, and I don't get it. You are the first person that take the time to help me. I'm not trying to say that I'm doing too much or I'm doing too little, but you have to understand that our load right now is really heavy, and we need to
10
find
seconds.
a way to make it more even. And I don't think cuts is the help that we need in this moment.
Thank you.
The last comment we have for this evening is from Joe Simpson.
Hi, I'm obviously not a public speaker. I just left class at the Wood Technology, and so I'm currently a student. I'm a proponent of community colleges. Community college gave me a degree, which gave me 42 years as a nurse. And I'm returning to learn skills. And I'm wanting to put a plug in for the trades programs. I see, since I've been here, I've taken carpentry and woodworking classes. I've been at some of the fairs where they promote Laney classes. I've seen Lawrence Livermore at the table in front of the machinist class. I talked with them, they have donated a lot of equipment for the program. And they had a display of all the amazing things that machinists do. So that was pretty impressive. Again, I want to support the trades. As we all did, read and I heard of the shameless pandering that Biden did for relieving tuition for higher level colleges. But there was nothing offered for the trades. Tradespeople are really needed. Carpenters, plumbers, welders, machinists, and they're all being taught here at Laney, and they're not promoted very well. So again, I'm here to support the trades. I don't know what the cuts involved. I hear from the 1021, which I was a member at Highland ER for 22 years. And they helped me, I'm sure, get back into the academic world. I think that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for taking the time and your comments. All right. If there are no more comments, I will declare the public hearing closed. Thank you, everyone. Now we move to our consent calendar.
I move to approve the consent calendar.
We have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Student trustee Parmigiani? Yes. Student trustee Byrne?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Ewan?
Yes.
Trustee Napoleon Bellarice?
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk?
Yes.
Trustee Johannes? Absent. Trustee Gonzalez Brito?
Yes.
Trustee Quinlan?
Yes.
You have a quorum.
Approval.
Approval.
Thank you. See, item 11.1, consider approval of the 25-26 non-resident tuition fees. Can I get a motion to approve on item 11.1?
So moved.
You get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? No, roll call, please.
Student trustee Parmigiani? Yes. Student trustee Byrne?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Ewan?
Yes.
Trustee Napoleon Bellarice?
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk?
Yes.
Trustee Johannes? Absent. Trustee Gonzalez Brito?
Yes.
Trustee Quinlan?
Yes.
You have approval.
We're now going to consider approval of resolution number 2425, and we're going to have a presentation on the reserve recommendation. Are we ready, Chancellor, for the presentation?
Yes, we are. Thank you. Board President, we'll have RCO Greg Nelson present.
Good evening, trustees. I appreciate the time this evening. I'm going to go over this presentation. It's very similar to the one I did in my town hall meeting on Friday, the previous 2 Fridays ago. So I will be running through this presentation. If you have questions, I refer you back to the detailed comments on the budget town hall. So one of the things I want to point out in the challenges for long-range planning is meeting the unrestricted reserves established by Board Policy 6250 has been a challenge for the district over the long haul. And there's also other long-range planning items that bring to your attention. I won't go into them in detail, but like I said, I'd refer you back to the previous town hall meeting where we talked about these in earnest. Next slide, please. This is the reserve context. It is historical and percentage of cash that the district has had on hand. And as you can see, the district has gone through several evolutions of changes in the reserve over time, going back to the last 10 years. Next slide, please. This slide shows the reserves as a percentage of expenses. You'll notice that early on in 14, 15, the reserve and expense lines kind of run parallel to each other. And then as we got into the COVID years, they started to spread apart. They really should stay somewhat congruent with each other. And you'll see the projections beyond this year, how we drop almost to zero and going into a deficit spend. Next slide. So I wanted to show you the historical reserves, how in 14, 15, 15, 16, and so on, we were at 5%. Then we adjusted the reserve in 18, 19 to 10%. Then in 23, 24, the board took action to raise it to 16.67%. As you look forward, going to forward-year projections based on the adopted budget book that was approved in September, you'll see that historical reserve is starting to drop based on partly because of our hold harmless and our rise of expenses. So I want to bring forward a reserve recommendation to the board tonight. And first recommendation is the change of board policy 6250. So this would be to maintain a reserve of 8% with 0.5% increases equal to or greater than 0.5% increase per year up to an 18% threshold. And it would require 6 out of the 7 board members to take money from the reserves to transfer it back to the unrestricted fund. Also, too, it's important, I think, to the district to establish a capital maintenance reserve and an equipment reserve that currently do not exist. This would help us with deferred maintenance and obsolete equipment as it becomes, especially in the instructional arena. These are some of the recommendations for the AP 6250, some of the principles, and the 4 reserves I mentioned before. The bond reserve, just to note, is a mandatory reserve that we have now. It's an in and out account with the county. That is something we already have on hand. The reserve procedure in a little more detail, like I said, 8% with the 0.5% increases. The capital maintenance fund and equipment would be $1 million base reserve that we would fund from PG&E rebates, utility savings, et cetera. And we would hold that for those things, for those items, and grow that over time. And then, as I mentioned, the board reserve already exists. The AP continues on to talk about what the chancellor shall do. We should add revenues per annum, as I mentioned. This lays out a schedule for that per annum increase, which the board would have the adoption ability and the tentative and the adopted budget to reaffirm that schedule. Also, too, this reserve recommendation outlines the ability for the district to enter into PARs, or public agency retirement services, for a Trust 115 account for our ongoing CalSTRS and CalPERS, which I'll talk about in just a minute. And as I mentioned, the trustees requirement. And then you'll, again, approve these annually. Next slide, please. So if you recalibrate the reserves based on the recommended AP, you'll see we re-benchmark in this fiscal year at 8%. And that will go up in 0.5% increments, and we stair step up over time. And this would allow us some short-term strategic planning abilities for the district to make long-term decisions. Go ahead. So the 4 items we want to ask for using the reserves for currently are other OPEB, other post-employment benefits, vacation payouts relative to their bargaining with School Employees International, the PARS system I just mentioned, and a resignation incentive. So other post-employment benefits, I won't go into this in a lot of detail, but in the short term, the district would like to contribute up to $14 million over the next 5 to 6 years to help us with the OPEB trust reserve, which is severely underfunded for our short and long-term obligations. And then long-term, consider property development for addressing the long-term OPEB liability, which right now we have at least a 50-year liability in front of us. This just shows where we stand in conjunction with the rest of the state when it comes to OPEB percentages that have been funded. About 48% of the districts are fully funded for their OPEB liability. The district, as of 2022, 2023 audit reports statewide, we were at 0.8% overall. So you can see the concern when it comes to OPEB trust and how we want to protect our retirees. The SEIU vacation payout was negotiated in 23-24. A cap was negotiated of 350 hours. This payout started this fiscal year, would be paid out over a 5-year period for anything in excess of 350 hours. The annual projected payout with salary and benefits is about $1 million per year. PARS, go ahead. So this is pre-funding pension obligations. Go to the next slide, please. So this just shows you the growth over how much pensions have grown over the last 10 years. And so as you see with PERS and STIRS, there's in the financial world we call the PERS and STIRS cliff, but those costs continue to rise. There was a point in time where the state helped us offset some of those, but that has since ended. So we need to figure out how to adjust for the PERS and STIRS costs that are going to continue to increase over the next few years. Next slide, please. You have to shrink it back down now. So PAR strategy is to pre-fund the account with one-time resources from the reserves this year. Then we would deduct our expenses related to pensions quarterly to cover that cost. So in essence, we would be able to grow our own money versus leaving it in the county treasury. We would invest in a fixed income or conservative base index. This program is supported by the CCLC, and it's only for public agencies, which give us a little more certainty than if we were on the open market. The resignation incentive has to be negotiated with all bargaining units. It's a cash buyout. It is not a CERP plan. It's not an annuity. It is a cash payout for employees who declare a resignation by May 1st. Employees must resign no later than June 30th of this fiscal year. Employees must have a minimum of 20 years of service to the district. And we also must consider the vacation liabilities that come along with those employees who are classified. Go ahead, next slide. So one-time money in summary, we would put $3 million in other post-employment benefits, $4 million set aside for the next 4 years for SEIU, public agency retirement systems for $3 million, and then a resignation incentive of $3 million. So just to give you an idea, we've had a total of 17 presentations thus far since August of the budget, between budget, town halls, flex sessions, et cetera. So we just wanted to point out the total transparency we try to have as much as we can on what the budget implications are for 25, 26 and beyond. Go ahead, next slide, please. And with that, Trustee Quinlan, I'll take questions.
Any questions from the board?
President.
Trustee Gonzalez, you in?
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Nikki.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It's super clear. And I have a comment and then I have a question. The comment is that it seems as a policy matter, what we're doing is just taking a different philosophical approach to how we're managing, what a reserve is. And it seems to me that what we're saying is that sometimes you have reserve and you need to use it. That's the point. You have a reserve, you build it responsibly, but sometimes you need to use it to our institution. And it seems to me that's what we're doing here. We're paying down debt and we're investing in our ability to cut our costs in the future and earn revenue. I think that makes a lot of sense. Here's my question. Let's say that we built the reserves back up to 15% and then we had a bad year again. And so then the board said, all right, based on the recommendations of a shared governance process, this is what we're going to do. We're going to spend some of the reserves, and we get 6 out of 7 of us to do that. Okay, let's say we took it back down to 8%. Is this policy saying that then the next year we're going to go back up that $500,000? Or is there some plan that says, no, you need to go back to 15% next year? Because it seems to me at one point we had that as a policy. This board wisely rejected that. But what would be our process of building back reserves if we, as a board, almost unanimously said we need to spend reserves?
Yeah, great question. So kind of in two parts, I think one, just from a standard practice, it's a good practice, to revisit policy and procedures every 5 years to make sure we're staying on par with what we should be doing. But if the board opted to take money out of the reserve, and just a reminder, the reserve is one-time money, it is not ongoing funds. So if you took money out of the reserve, then based on the way the policy and procedure is currently being drafted, then you would go up another 0.5 point the following year. You would rebench the reserve per the policy, and you'd set out a new schedule pursuant to the AP. And then you would rebench from there and go back up 0.5% a year or greater than if need be. But the board would make that adoption every year at the budget process, during the budget process.
Thank you. That's what I thought. And I just wanted to clarify. I think this makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Cindy, any other comments from the board? Brent?
Thank you for that presentation. The presentation demonstrates that we are both being very responsible and we're being incredibly proactive. And thank you for having this conversation. What I particularly like about this is that this particular administrative team, unlike any other administrative team that has been here while I've been on the board, has been able to come up with a solution that is both out of the box, very generative. And you all have really kind of thought about this from our board discussions, thought about this in such a manner where you've worked through the scenarios, you've really thought about this in terms of planning, you've thought about it in terms of ramifications. It's a strategy that allows us to begin remedying grave financial issues that we have right now, while also at the same time providing minimal damage cuts to the internal community. I mean, I think we're kind of really going far and wide in terms of figuring out how we are going to deal with the urgent-ish financial issues now, but also at the same time, as you've said many a time, giving us a runway to figure out our long-term financial obligations. And I just want to reiterate this one more time because I think this is important. This one-time funding that we're going to take from the reserves will be allocated to costs that we have to pay now that we do not really have the funds for. And that is the OPEB liabilities that I think is very abstract to many people out there, but it is a reality and it is a liability that we need to start thinking about more substantially in terms of how we're paying it off. The School Employment International, the SEIU vacation payout, which we are obligated to pay and we have to pay and we will and we can now, the PARs, as well as the resignation incentive. And again, as I think about this plan, it is, for the most part, seemingly remarkable, but it takes a lot of courage and it also takes a lot of out-of-the-box thinking to be able to have come up with this. So thank you for this runway that this is giving us.
Trustee Gonzalez Brito.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I also really appreciate, seems like our presentations have gotten clearer, from the time I, started on the board and really answer a lot of proactive questions. So I just wanted to raise under the post OPEB. I really appreciate not just talking about the one-time reserve payment that we're going to make, but also that we're talking about the ongoing and growing liability and how we're going to begin to address that, as well as, the property development there, you have the issues with trust too, and what we might need to do. So it gets us thinking proactively and not just about these one-time expenses, our one-time use of reserves that we can't do again. And so I just want to appreciate that.
So for me, over the past 2 years on the board and 20 years at Peralta, the elevators break, we get the money from the general fund, we cut classes. Something else breaks, culinary floods, something else floods, electric power goes out, internet goes down, fire alarms don't work. Pay for it out of the general fund, we cut classes. This is a plan to stop cutting classes, and that's why I'm going to support this. Have a motion to approve?
I'm sorry, my hand is raised before we move to vote.
Sorry, I
Can
didn't
you hear me?
Trustee Johannes wants to make a comment.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Sorry, my hand was raised. I didn't want to vote yet. Can you hear me easily? Sorry,
Yes.
before I start. Okay. I do appreciate the presentation. My thoughts differ, and it possibly is because I've been gone for the beginning of this year, right? You've noticed that I've not been at the meetings, and I was not at the board retreat, which was at the end of January. And just to say publicly, I was in Ethiopia visiting family, but it wasn't a reunion of sorts. It was from November 2020 until recently, there was a genocidal war against my specific region, Tigray. And by region, that also means my whole family. Both of my parents have about 9 brothers and sisters each. They are the youngest, meaning there's maybe 1 or 2 brothers and sisters on each side, but all of them had about 9 kids each. So I have a ton of cousins who are also my age who were in the war if they were male, and they were women. If they were women, some of them were in the war as well, or they were taking care of them. All that to say, since there's a ceasefire, I was able to visit. I'm saying this because it wasn't a vacation. I had to go with my 80-year-old father who wanted to see his last brother. Bringing it back to Peralta, I will say I do not feel as though I have enough time or information regarding this. I appreciate the presentation, but as far as me coming straight from Ethiopia directly to be in Washington, D.C. for the conference and not even going home to Oakland first, I'm trying my best to grasp everything. That being said, we had 10% at one point as far as our reserve fund, which was pushed to 16% based on the recommendation of the state chancellor to say 15%, which is 2 months worth of operating expenses. The limit, the minimum you must have, according to regulation, is 5%. We are bringing it down to 8%. But what that means also is that we're bringing it down to 1 month's worth of operational expense. So if we were to have lost whatever, we would have 1 month to be able to operate, to pay everyone's salaries, to keep the lights on, to attempt to fix the elevators, right? I'm worried. And for me to have just gotten this information, I can't with full conscience say that I am okay with spending the $15 million, the 8% that we'll remove. I'm happy to revisit this another time and vote on it. But at this point, I will go with a no. And it's just because I am trying to be as prudent as possible. I'm not against it. I'm just not with it yet. I just need more time, more information. I'd like to speak with people. I'd like to just learn more and really understand, can we make this extra 0.5% per year moving forward? Or will we be stuck? Or will we need to take from it again? Will we need to shut down completely? I don't know. I don't know anything. I cannot vote yes on this. I appreciate the other options that we have pulled from, and I understand that reserve is for a rainy day, and it is raining, but it could rain harder, right? It was raining before, it's raining harder now. It probably will rain harder again. So at this moment, I do understand that this sounds like a great idea, and the things that we need to pay, we needed to pay them years ago as well. I can't go with a yes at this time.
Thank you. Trustee Delphine Polk.
Thank you, everyone. I want to just appreciate the administration. I'm also in DC for the ACCT conference, which is why I'm not there in person, but I want to just appreciate the administration's, specifically Dr. Gilkerson's leadership on this. I know that this has been an ongoing conversation for some time, and so I appreciate the very clear presentation, and I just, again, want to show appreciation for this. So thank you so much.
Any other comments from the board? We have roll call, please.
I move to
We are removed.
move approve. You did?
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
I move approval.
I'll second it.
Student trustee Parmigiani?
Yes.
Student trustee Byrne?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Ewan?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Vallarice?
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk?
Yes.
Trustee Johannes?
No.
Trustee Gonzalez Brito,
Yes.
trustee Quinlan.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Microphone, sorry. Didn't put that in the script. Sorry. Consider approval of resolution number 2425-154, authorizing the issuance and sale of general obligation refunding bonds of the district in an aggregate amount not to exceed 235 million, and approving the forms and authorizing the execution and delivery of one or more paying agent agreements, bond purchase agreements, escrow agreements, continuing disclosure certificates and official statements, and authorizing the execution of necessary documents and certificates relating to said refunding bonds. Can I get a motion to approve 11.3?
So moved.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
President Quinlan, could I ask for an amendment that we combine this and the next item? I believe they're essentially the same. Same issue, same approval. Would the maker and seconder agree to that?
We can do that. So combining this with 11.4?
Yes.
Do we need to have any, is there any questions or discussions on 11.4 before we combine them?
So he's asking for you to combine them. So we'll take a vote on that, and then you can have discussion
Okay.
on both items at the same time.
So is there a motion, you moved to buy, is there a second to combine them? Take a vote on combining the,
All you need is the maker and the seconder to agree to my proposed amendment.
Yep. So now you can do discussion.
so discussion on 11.3 and 11.4.
So trustees, we're excited, right, about the time and space of the sale and issuance and the refunding of general obligation bonds, thanks to our incredible voters in our area for supporting the work here in our district. And so this is the opportunity for us to go for our next tranche and refund also some of that back to the voters. So these two items are in front of you as we prepare. You'll notice that projects are continuing at Merritt College and College of Alameda. We have something rising in the skyline at Berkeley City College, and many projects are beginning to get underway at Laney College. So this is an opportunity to show, again, the progress the district is making in meeting the vision we put out to voters and their support for us.
So Chancellor, just a question on 11.3, reading the documents, my understanding was that it's to get a better interest rates on those bonds, to pay down our, so we get a better interest, rates on our past bonds that are already out there?
Yep. I'll have, that is correct. I'll have our COO give more details.
Trustee Quinlan, that's correct. So we have some bonds that are starting to mature, and we can actually refinance those based on the maturity date and get a cheaper interest rate to the tune of about $7 million back to the taxpayers.
Free money. Thank you. Any other questions or discussion?
Maybe
Call a vote.
I'll just say one more thing. Thank you for also ensuring that our bond council sits with all of the trustees so that we know what it is we're getting into and we're able to understand the complexity of these a bit more. Thanks.
Call the question for a vote.
It's roll call. You already have a first and a second. Oh, okay.
We did.
Student trustee Parmigiani,
Yes.
student trustee Byrd,
Yes.
trustee Woodrow,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Yes.
trustee Napoli Bellarice,
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
trustee Johannes,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Brito,
Yes.
trustee Quinlan.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 11.5, consider Board of Trustees nomination for the CCT Board election slate. Do we have a nomination?
Thank you. Excited about this item. I want to nominate trustee Delphine Polk for the CCCT Board election slate.
I'd like to second the nomination.
You beat me to it, President.
Is there any discussion?
If I may I say a few words?
Sure.
Thank you very much. I'm really excited to be able to run for CCCT. I have deep roots in I come from the political space. I've been really intentional about the relationships I've been making here at the ACCT conferences that I've been coming to, as well as CCLC, which I'll talk about in my report. But I'm really excited. Thank you so much for the nomination, and I look forward to working with each of you.
Any further comments? Call the roll.
If I may,
Parmigiani?
just a quick comment.
Trustee Gonzalez Yuen, go ahead.
We need representation on that board. It's really vital. Deanna, it's a ton of work. Thank you for stepping forward. And I think you're nicely connected to play that role. That'll be really good for us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Just one more comment. Yes, thank you, Tiana. But also, do we need to vote on several others for this slate, or does that come later on?
That'll come later. So right now
Okay.
we're making nominations. So Community College District can only nominate one person from their board if they want them to be. And then the full slate will come up and the board will then vote on those things later in the year.
Okay.
The election will happen in March.
Call.
Student trustee Parmigiani?
Yes.
Student trustee Byrne?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Yuen?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Bellarice?
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk?
Yes.
Trustee Johannes?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Brito?
Yes.
Trustee Quinlan?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
On the next agenda item, I have a conflict of interest here based on some investments I have that are on the warrant report. Trustee Gonzalez Brito is going to take over as chair while I leave the room.
Thank you, President Quinlan. So we're moving to item 11.6. Consider ratification of the payment warrant report for the period covering December 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Student trustee Parmigiani?
Yes.
Student trustee Byrne?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Yuen?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Bellarice?
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk?
Yes.
Trustee Johannes?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Brito?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Vice President. Chancellor would like to close.
Board trustees reports.
Oh, sorry. Okay, we're going to do board trustee reports first.
Item 12.1.
Any trustees with a report? Trustee Gonzalez Brito.
I just want to say, I don't really have a report, but I just want to thank our community for coming to speak today so compellingly and reminding us that this is about people, people in our community who have sacrificed so much and given so much to this district. And I just really appreciate the courage that took, the leadership it took, and want you to know that you were heard.
Any other reports?
I have my hand up, President.
Go ahead.
Hello again. Like I said, I'm at the ACCT conference in Washington, D.C. I walked through snow for the first time. I don't know if that can say, more of a California thing or more of a California girl than anything. I'm really excited about being here. Unfortunately, some of the reports that we're hearing out of Washington, it's what I got out, and maybe Trustee Johannes, you can say something differently, but I mean, what I essentially got out of this was that there's a lot of unknowns with regards to federal funding, especially for community colleges. We were fortunate to be able to meet with Congressman DeSaulnier today, who is on the Education and Workforce Committee for the U.S. Congress. And we were able to attend a forum with both of our U.S. senators, Badia and Schiff. And essentially, everybody is saying the same thing. We don't know what's going to happen, but we know that our elected leaders in Washington are going to be fighting for us. Previous to that, I went to the CCLC legislative conference with President Quinlan and Chancellor Gilkerson. And we were able to meet with our senator again to talk about our priorities as a district and to talk about some of the impacts the SCIF is going to have on our district, specifically on our students. And so we want to keep those conversations ongoing with our leaders to let them know that some of these funding formulas may or may not be working for us. And so I'm really excited to be running for CCCT to be able to amplify those voices in these spaces and to help set the policy agenda for our community colleges statewide, because there is a lot of work to do. There's a lot of unknowns with regards to our funding. And the way that we can continue to have a voice is to be at the table. So I'm really excited to be running for this. I also want to send appreciation for everybody who came and spoke today. I'm so sorry that I wasn't there in person, but I will be there in person for the next meeting. And I want to just echo what Vice President Gonzalez Brito said, is that you are heard. So thank you.
So I also have a report, a couple of items. I went to the CCCT convention last weekend and a weekend ago in Sacramento. I went to 3 different trainings for board members. I learned some very interesting things, nuts and bolts type stuff, and then also some interesting perspectives on policies and the way we run our policy committees and our board policies and APs. I also went to an excellent presentation from the Student Basic Needs Committee from the CCLC, headed by our own Chancellor. And presentations were also included somebody from Napa and their student housing project, where they have a public-private process. And I think the interesting thing, along with Dr. Keith Curry from Compton and their housing project, and a lot of the work they do with their college and raising outside funds is through, they tied into their foundations, because they use their 501c3 status as a way to do work that the colleges can't do by themselves. And I thought that was a really interesting idea and something we should look at Peralta. I also went to the tiny house celebration. Dr. Besikoff led it. The carpentry department did an amazing job, and this is their second one they've done in the last couple of years. And I think it's a win-win-win, because our students learn in the process. We help improve our community, and there's people very grateful in the community for the housing they're getting to use. And the last thing, sorry, at the conference, I also went to the workshop on the Career Education Master Plan. And all I'd like to report there is it was disappointing. I expected there to be to get educated on the plan, and that is not what happened. So that's my report. Do you have any announcements? Oh, sorry, I didn't. Go ahead.
Hello, Board of Trustees. Student Trustee Pierce and I would like to report that we held our second online district-wide student government meeting on January 22nd, with another one planned for February 21st. These serve as opportunities to hear any updates from each campus, and we're continuing to brainstorm on different topics such as creative funding for student clubs. We also worked with Director Pridgeon on the upcoming new safety app for the Peralta Colleges in the district. Through testing the product, it seems really promising for being helpful to students with its organization and features for campus safety resources. And lastly, this month we will be joining the Shared Governance District Student Success and Enrollment Management Committee and the Planning and Budget Committee, and we look forward to reporting back to you on that.
I will add on. It was a privilege to give input on this app, I think we're both very excited to see this app be launched in the next upcoming weeks. And I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening. I moved here 3 years ago to Berkeley, and Peralta has been my home ever since. So I think it's important that as a community we all come together. So thank you.
Can we now have our announcements?
I just want to echo and repeat again the sentiments and the statements of Vice President Gonzalez Brito. Thank you to the community for coming out and letting your perspectives be heard and your stories be heard. I think that we are all at a point in time when these decisions are so incredibly painful and so incredibly hard. And hearing each and every one of your stories allows us to kind of vacillate or go back and forth between the abstract, as Matt Goldstein had said, to the humanity, to the every one of you who comprise this particular district, the heart and soul of the district. So keep on keeping on, and we want to hear you, but we also know that there are many hard decisions forthcoming.
Any other comments? Now
Okay. So announcements. Oh, sorry. Okay. Love Your Future, finish faster with short-term classes offered in a wide range of subjects at each of the colleges. Visit the Peralta website to enroll now. The Peralta Community College District celebrates Black History Month in February, and there are events happening at each of the colleges. Visit the college websites for details. The Bond Measure Oversight Committee will meet tomorrow, February 12th at 5:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. And lastly, the Peralta Community College District will be closed on Friday, February 14th in observance of President Lincoln's birthday, and on Monday, February 17th in observance of President's Day. Be safe and enjoy the long holiday weekend.
I believe Chancellor has a few closing comments about,
Thank you, President Quinlan. So tonight would like to close the meeting in memory of Dr. Susan Coda and Alzie Ray Roberts. We'll close the meeting tonight in memory of two dedicated members of the Peralta Colleges family. Dr. Susan Coda, a trailblazing leader, served as a counselor at Merritt College and Dean of Students at the College of Alameda before moving to Las Positas, eventually becoming the first Hispanic female chancellor in the California Community College system. Her commitment to underserved communities and students with disabilities left a lasting impact. We also mourn the passing of Alzie Roberts, a dedicated counselor at Merritt College and the College of Alameda. Her unwavering support for students, especially athletes, extended beyond academics to life skills and opportunities. Both Dr. Coda and Ms. Roberts will be deeply missed. Please join me in a moment of silence in their memory.
thank you. Our meeting is now adjourned.